Hey y'all, welcome back to Dean's Fab Shop. Starting a process here of a little project I'm doing. A friend of mine runs a cemetery, and they just put in a new driveway, and they needed a gate made for the entrance of it. I've already started on this. Actually, I forgot to start filming it. Anyway, it's going to be a driveway gate. It's going to be 20 feet long total, two 10-foot pieces with hinges and with a latch in the middle. So I'll show you what I've done so far and how it's going to look and how it's supposed to look. All right, so it's going to be two 10-foot pieces. I'm making it out of 1 inch square. It's going to be 2'6" tall. I've already mitered the corners and I've tacked together the other side. I had little magnets right here, little 90-degree magnets I stuck in it. I've got it all tacked up. On the other side, I flipped it over. Now I've got to weld it up. And it's gonna have, this is 1 inch square tubing. And every 6 inches or so, it's gonna have 3/4 square tubing from one side to the other. So, and we'll get all those cut up after I get this welded up and cleaned up. But what it's basically supposed to look like is, let's see here, something like this right here. When I'm done with it, hopefully it end up something like that. I'll have a 4x4 piece over here on the outsides with two hinges on it, and inside here I'll have a latch to meet the two together. So I'm gonna make two of these right here, 2'6" by 10 foot long. Like I said, I'll have 3/4 square tubing coming down all through here. And I'm thinking about maybe doing something decorative on the ends of each one of them, because there's another gate they have made there that's a little bit decorative right here on the corners going up. I might do something there, but we'll see how it goes. Let's get this frame here all welded up on both of them, and we'll start cutting up the 3/4 pieces that's going to go between it. All right, got everything welded up on both of them, welded solid. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a flapper disc on a grinder and clean up all the sharp edges everywhere, on the corners, round them a little bit, make them where they don't hurt anybody. So we're gonna go that route now and clean all those up, get all the little knots off of it. So let's get to grinding that down, then we can start cutting up my 3/4 inch. Oh, by the way, before I started and after I got done, I took a tape measure from corner to corner and corner to corner to verify those measurements were the same, so I know it's square. And in fact, they are. So that's what we wanted. I get all the edges, all the corners rounded on it, and everything smoothed out. Got all the little pebbles off of it. So did that on both of them. Now I'm gonna have to do a little bit of math, and my 3/4 inch square tubing that's gonna go between all these is gonna be somewhere around 6 inches apart. So I'm gonna have to do some math, measure the inside of this thing, and see how many pieces I will need to cut of the 3/4 square to get them all put in there squarely and welded in. All right, I've determined that I need 19 pieces of the 3/4 square tubing per section. So let's get on to cutting those, clean them all up, sand them down a little bit, and start installing them in here. All right, so I've determined that all these are going to be 28 1/8 long. So I need 19 per section. Then I'm gonna clean them all up, sand them down, and wipe them off before I weld them on. All right, you get the idea. Also, if you notice, I'm striking a line this way, and I'm also striking a line down. These porta bands that we use, sometimes it's easy for them to run off at an angle, so it's best to have two lines to guide yourself to make sure it's a straight cut. I've got 38 pieces of this 3/4 to go in between all this. That's a lot of pieces to cut. And of course, here's what I start out with, just a regular old metal, you know, how I get it. And I'll clean it all up with a roll-lock disc like this right here. It's taken a lot of time, but I clean everything up and kind of sand it with the sander as I go, because it's just, I won't have to sand everything before I paint it, you know, so. That's why I do that. Plus, you know, a cleaner piece of metal, you know, is a better weld. We finally got all the pieces cut and cleaned off. Now what I'm gonna do is square all these up in here, center them up in it, and weld them in. As you can see, I've got all my marks made where each one is gonna go to. So let's get all these squared up and every one of them tacked in, and then I'll go back and weld them all up. Finally got it to the point where I got all these 3/4 inch pieces put in and got them all welded in finally. I went back and cleaned off all the little BBs, the little welding BBs, because to me, if you leave those on there, it just ruins a perfectly good project. You know, it just ruins the looks of a perfectly good project. So I went ahead and cleaned all those off of there. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm overreacting on that, or how much of a perfectionist are you on your projects. I like to know that, because I've always cleaned them off. I just think it looks a whole lot better, and that's what I've always done. So I've got one of these welded up, got all the 3/4 inch pieces put in. I'm gonna get the other one on the table here and do it. But what I may do first is I want to put something decorative on the outsides of each one, something that may come up and then back, just something kind of decorative. I'm gonna science that out real quick and see what I can come up with there. But I know it will only need to be 6 inches off the top of it, so I'm gonna figure something out there. I'll get back with you. Okay, you can kind of get an idea of how I cut this now. This will all fit up there like that, and it comes back here. You see how that fits up right there? I'll weld all that on. You see how I left the cap on the end right there, and what I'll do is I'll bend it down to where it's on top of the 1 inch square tubing there, and I'll weld around it, and there's my cap already built into it. All right, there's the finished product of the little decorative part on top of it. The hinges will be on this side right here, so these will be the outside of each gate piece. So, you know, something different. Instead of just having just a regular old rectangle gate, you know, have a little something on the ends of it whenever it swings open. It's got a little look to it. I'm happy with it. We got everything all welded up now. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna lay it all on the floor square it all up, put it where I need it to be. And here's my latch system in here. I'm probably gonna clean all the paint off and weld it on, and I'm gonna make a plate to weld it to on each side right here. So that'll be a good system there. I just had to figure out how wide I had to make the gate apart right here. So I put this in the middle of the gate, and on the ends I've got some 4x4s, 4x4 by 1/4 inch thick. I'm gonna put on the outside right here and figure out a way to put some latches on it. I mean some hinges rather. So I'm gonna get to that point. See what we got to do. And I made these plates 1/8 inch thick. It's the width of this 2 3/4 by the length of it 4.5 inches. So I'm gonna put those behind here and weld them to the 1 inch tubing. And I'll probably end up bolting these to that, so that way there, if the latch ever wears out, it'll be a lot easier to change out the latch versus trying to take a cutting wheel and cut a bunch of welds off. So yeah, I'm just gonna weld these plates to the 1 inch square and then bolt the latch to them. I think that would be better in the long run. This is how this is how I'm ended up going to do it here. I've got a plate made under here, as you saw. I just bolted them to here and here. And what I'm gonna do is where this curves over onto the 1 inch square, I'm gonna weld it here and over just a little bit on both sides. And then that should hold all that just fine. So it'll all work good whenever it's all done. And then if the latch ever needs to be changed, it'll just be, you know, minimal grinding with a cutting wheel or something like that to get the welds off of there to replace it. So that's how I'm gonna do it. I may even may weld these holes up, I may not, probably not. Because if I do, it'll be like a plug weld, and that would be kind of hard to get off if you're wanting to replace the latch. So that's how that's gonna work. So I'm gonna get these up on the table and weld everything up, and then get them back down here and start on the hinges on the ends. As you saw, I cleaned off the 4x4s to get them prepped out, and I've got the 4 hinges here that I'm going to put on it. They're just a heavy-duty hinge, about almost 1/8 of an inch thick. And what I'm going to mount those to, I'm going to weld. This is a 1/4 inch by 2 angle iron. I'm going to cut it at 5 inches. I'm going to cut 4 of them at 5 inches, and that's what these will bolt to. And then I will weld the angle iron to the 4x4. But what I will probably do, I'll probably drill about a couple, 3, whatever, 1/2 inch holes, and I'll use them to plug weld. So it'll be really good and strong instead of just welding it on the edge. And on the side, put some holes in it to do some plug welds too, to make it stronger. So I'm gonna cut 4 of these out and science out how I'm gonna mount them onto the 4x4s. We got the hinges welded to the 4x4 in place where they go to, and made these brackets here. Sorry about that. What I'm going to do with these is they'll go in here, and I'll weld them to the 1-inch square tubing. Then I will bolt them all on. I already have little pilot holes drilled in the square tubing right here, so I don't miss where it goes. So let's get these tacked on here, drill some holes, bolt that up, and the hinges really should be done. Everything is made, everything is welded on. See, I got this mount under here, welded on. I flipped everything over and welded the bottom, drilled all the holes. So all this right here is all ready to bolt up. But I'm gonna leave everything loose because I still need to paint this thing. So I'm gonna stamp everything and mark it, how it goes, which is pretty cut and dry anyway. And then I'm gonna stand these up and paint them. And I'll probably hang the 10-foot pieces from the rafters and paint those. So getting ready to get to that point, get this thing done. Finally got the gates hung up. I just hung them from the rafter with some belling wire from the rafters there. So I'm gonna put some plastic down here and start painting on it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna brush it on and roll it on. They said that's how they do the other gates over at the cemetery. So I'm just gonna do that. Plus I don't have a good ventilated paint booth or anything in this shop, and I don't want to get overspray all over everything either. May end up doing it in the future on that thing. But anyway, here's the paint I'm gonna use. It's what they wanted me to get for it. They said it's what they use on their other gates. I think it's some kind of an olive green or something like that, he said. So, here we go. What a dragon's breath, whatever it is. Okay. Anyway, let's put some plastic down and start getting some paint on. Oh, I forgot to add. I got some of these little decorative things to put on top of the 4x4s. They go right over it. They're usually made for like a 4x4 wood post. But I put these on here, and I'm gonna put some pop rivets in it to hold it on, right in there and right in there. So then I'm gonna paint those the same colors I paint the 4x4s and as the gate. So get those set up, pop rivets in it, ready to paint on it. All right, she's all done, ready to be delivered. Got it all painted, it's all dry. Got all the hinges bolted up tight. So it's time to deliver this thing and get it to its new home. Hopefully everything works out okay with it. Yeah, I got the gate delivered. They were happy with it. I don't know when they're gonna put it up, but whenever they do, I wanna go out there and get some pictures and see what it looks like, and maybe I can post those up somewhere. But here pretty soon, I'm going to be making a roll-around workbench, and I'm gonna make some roll-around carts for some tools that I have. So join me on that on the next videos coming up. And if you don't mind, like and subscribe. I'll do a whole lot more of this. It's a lot of fun, and we'll see you later. Bye.